Hello, everybody, and happy Sunday. Welcome to Intuitiview. Welcome to Let's Chat on Sunday. Today we are chatting with medium Kim-Copeland. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
You are
I
so
love doing
welcome.
this.
Well, like I was saying before we got on, wanted to do a show about mediumship, and I just couldn't think of a better person to have on. So I thought of you right away. So for those people who aren't familiar with you, there may be a couple out there. So let me just tell them that you currently work as a professional medium. And do you still do hospice work?
1 day a week.
Okay, so part-time hospice work still.
Yes.
And she also teaches healing and intuition and mediumship and color.
Yes.
And she especially loves to use color in her readings and teachings. Kim uses energy medicine for self-care to help keep her vibrations lifted. And it is in the field of energy healing that she discovered departed loved ones, angels, and masters near her clients. Kim is passionate about helping others develop their own unique way of receiving spiritual psychic information. So welcome, Kim.
Thank you so much, Kim. I'm so honored to be here. This is a delight, really, to share this with you because this is a passion for me. I mean,
yeah. And you're so good at it. And I know that, and I can, if you've ever been read by Kim, if you ever watch her channel, you know that you can feel that it's such a heartfelt passion of yours to connect people with the other side. And so I wanted to kind of start at the beginning, though, because some people are just born mediums and some people kind of roll into more often people kind of roll into it through a different series of awakenings. But you talk about on your channel about a spiritual awakening you had in 1995.
Yes.
So can you talk about yourself a little bit before that and then what happened in 1995?
Sure, absolutely. So I feel, well, first of all, talking about spirits and anything metaphysical was kind of normal when I was growing up because my mother was an astrologer and a numerologist, and my grandmother was a medium, and she was a channeler and an automatic writer. So, I mean, it was just normal. On one side of my family, it was very normal. So, but I didn't see people. I didn't see departed loved ones or anything like that when I was little. But when my mother did pass when I was 12, and when that happened, it's like, oh, where did she go? And I think that was a little bit of, I got to find her,
Right.
although I wasn't able to really find her then. And, that was a pretty dark period, really. I mean, you can imagine that was hard. But I also think that having that loss at that age perhaps helped me or inspired me. Now, I never put it together, is to do the hospice work. Having a death at a young age, then I can understand, especially children who have lost or losing a parent. So anyway, but
right.
I think, so it seemed relatively normal. I have people that I talked to, like old boyfriends when I was like 16, but I still talk to maybe through Facebook. What say? Remember when you took me to see the medium in Houston? And I'm like, oh, not really. I don't remember, but it was just like, what we did.
Right.
So I think that when you go to college, you kind of, at least I did, you're so busy with your mind and life tasks that I didn't focus on it at all then. But I knew it was always in my back pocket. And then in 95, so I was born in 59. So in 95, it's like the year, when you do the numerology, then it kind of, that's a powerful year. If it's the same numbers, you see?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just happened to watch a medium on TV, and Rosemary Altea, who wrote The Gray Eagle. Anyway, and she still is a working medium. She lives in Florida now, but that just inspired me to like, oh my gosh, I forgot all about this. And so then I started like on my path, and I really haven't stopped since. I mean, I've done, I think I started more psychic work, taking psychic development classes, shamanism. I did a few years, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years of really focused shamanism. And then just really throughout the whole time, though, I've been developing psychic abilities. And then I'd say, oh gosh, I really don't remember now. I'm going to say about 8 years ago is when I first discovered about being a medium. We're like, okay, now, I mean, even though I had seen my mother, like before I, started working or development, but I would see her on the sofa next to me. With, if my son was little, he was like 2 or 3, and he's 21 now. So, and I'd see her and she'd be sitting, she just looked gorgeous, right? And she always dressed beautifully, but she'd have this long cigarette holder, and I'd say, well, you can't smoke in front of James, and, just don't do that, no smoking in front of the kids. And so it just seemed normal to me.
Right.
And then I would see my mom come up to my husband, and I'd see going, like, if she wanted to give a message, because I can see objectively, I see both objectively and subjectively. So in other words, outside of my mind and in a mind's eye.
Right.
So I see both ways. But so I would see her come third eye to him, like trying to give him a message. Just things like that, that would come up. So that was actually before I started to develop. And then once I started developing, there was a time at the very beginning, it was very important to me to connect to my mom again. So she came in a different way than she is today. So I think that there's a healing part of mediumship. There's always healing. Mediumship should always be healing. You should always be enabled and not disabled when you have a mediumship reading.
Right.
And so she would come in, apologetic about, leaving early and that kind of thing, and kind of, like her head down. But then as we started developing a relationship through mediumship, then she's like this huge angel. I don't even know how big she is, but she's huge. But I think part of it is because we both got to kind of come together and understand each other, So there was a lot of healing done. So it's a beautiful thing on that. And I'll just say, when my dad passed, now he passed much later. I was just, actually it was, 20 years ago, I'd say. My dad always liked animals. I loved animals. We had a safari ranch. At one point, where he had giraffe. Not giraffe. Sorry, wildebeest, all kinds of impala, different game animals from Africa.
Wow.
So he was just and he had a Native American Indian museum, and he was named White Eagle because the Navajo Indians gave him that name. They did a whole ceremony and gave him an official name of White Eagle. But anyway, when he passed, and I was tuning into him, and this was even before I was developing as a medium, but I just tuned in, and there he was with all these animals in Africa and a Native American guide, and it was just like, oh, so that's awesome, So, yeah.
So, and it makes me think, when you, because you're saying I see subjectively, I see objectively. So you see with your eyes, and you also see with your mind's eye.
That's right.
And so do you think that sometimes people that are beginning mediumship, or people whose family on the other side are trying to reach out to them, do you think sometimes people get caught into what should be happening or what it should feel like versus what it really feels like? And could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, of course. And by the way, that's when I see objectively, it's more, I'd say that's not as common probably, but I don't know, it's a combination. But anyway, yes, I think we have expectations that we're going to see it like a movie or something like that. And it's usually, and of course, all of us are different in how we receive information, whether it's psychic information or whether it's from the spirit world. We're all unique, just like every single person in the spirit world is unique too. And they're going to come in a different way. So what we think of as a clairvoyant, right? Those can be in movies. Well, no, not necessarily. Some people might get a movie, but most people get a flash. It's very subtle. It's a sense. But I think in this newer age that we are, and as we develop, like we're going to develop differently. Like we're going to go through a phase perhaps of clairaudience. We might go through a phase of clairvoyant. We might go through a phase of clairgustance. So we're going to go through phases, and that's wonderful. And then you kind of combine them together. But yes, it isn't like in the movies, I think. Or is it? I don't know. I don't really watch too many movies, but I mean, or Hollywood, right? I don't know so much the Hollywood. Oh my God, there they are. But I think as people are awakening now, what I've noticed, what I've been doing over so many years, nowadays people are doing in like a year. Do you know what I mean? They're
Right.
awakening so quick. It's like it's an explosion.
It does feel like there's this acceleration, doesn't it? It's just accelerating so quickly now. What do you think that is? What do you think's going on?
I think the Earth. Well, we're here to support the Earth, is what I believe. Her ascension, and so as this is happening, it's big energy. The Earth is big energy, right? The Earth is changing. We're changing. I think this has been planned for eons. I think this, and this is well, I mean, I still am hopeful, even though we're all like in division and all this, but I still feel hopeful that we are going to go to the light, or that the Earth is going to the light. The humanity is going to the light. Now, of course, not every single person, but in general, right? And then as we develop, also, I notice the newer age kind of feeling, sensing is knowing, the claircognizant. People just know. They may not ever get a clairvoyant image, or they may never get a voice, or even, the clairaudient self. Sometimes it's a thought, and it can be your words, or it can be, your voice or somebody else's voice if it's objective. But I think what's happening is as we're going up so much quicker, we just know. And I think, and I don't know, Kim, you tell me, I think that our DNA is getting activated, is what I believe. Through whatever process, through this whole ascension process, I think that we're being activated. And during our sleep time, there's more spirits coming in to support us because they know this is a difficult time. And as they're gathering, we're opening up to that awareness.
Right.
So, yeah, and I'm also noticing that there's a lot of galactic energy as well around people. I mean, but I've seen it for years, but I'm seeing it more now.
Right. And it also feels like my husband said the other day, just like out of nowhere, he's like, there's more people on the earth now than there has been in all of history. And I thought about that, and I thought, that makes perfect sense, because of course we all want to be here for this, because it is this giant shift. But I think because there's so much energy here, it also makes it a bit more chaotic. It makes it a bit more there are a lot more rumbling and a lot more energies to work through and that kind of thing. But I think you're right. I think this has been planned for always, and we all want to be here for it, because it's like, hey, we've seen this through, we've been here since the beginning, and we're not going to miss this.
That's right.
So,
and I know. And I think people are waiting in line. We think, oh my gosh, this is so hard, but people are waiting in line, spirits, to come in.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah, exactly. So I want to ask you about color, because I think that's such a useful tool. It's something we kind of all know, unless you have color blindness, that's a whole other thing, but that happens. But color is something that I think we can relate to. And I also think that it has, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, it has such meaning for us. And so what started you in using color in your readings, and why is it important to you?
Yeah, I use it every reading, all the time. I think I started when I was working with energy medicine, and I was in that was another phase of my life to study energy work. And I, became certified in a Donna Eden program, and, as an advanced practitioner or whatever, it doesn't matter. But Donna Eden is the one who inspired. Everybody wanted to know color because she could see everybody's colors. And so we were like, we want to do that. I want to do that, right? And so there was a lot of learning and teaching around just like the life colors. And mainly we focus on the life colors versus what's in the chakras or the aura. One of the things that she would tell us is that, you have the rainbow that you look, when you see the chakra line up, but it's not everybody's like that. And that's true. Not everybody's like that. But so that inspired me. And then as I just came along, I don't know what it is. I'm just attracted. It's just a natural fit for me. And I feel, so now I use it in a different way. Yes, I can use it with aura colors. Yes. And I can draw people's colors. Yes. But what I do in readings is I use a color. It's a symbology. And everybody can have their own symbology. Like green may be Irish to you. For me, it might mean money. It could mean heart. It could be go. There's a lot of different, green could mean so many different things. And so when, you're working with, say green, you have to blend with the color to feel what that means, and it could mean multiple things. It could even mean a leader, a world leader, or somebody with a big heart. So there's a lot of, and I see green a lot with when somebody's a hands-on healer, I see green on their fingertips. It's just like dripping. I just, you know what I mean? So, so I think I like it because it's like a picture of, and has a meaning right away. Cause you put the visual, the clairvoyance with it, and the feeling with it, and the knowing. You put it all together to feel what it means. Now you can do color psychically to psychic, just check in on somebody's energy field. Okay. You can also use color in mediumship, which means the color is coming from the spirit world, which is outside of that psychic auric field. You can't really separate them too much, but still you think the colors will be coming from spirit. Okay. And spirit will show me a color that means something. Okay. Or maybe this is a very common thing for me. If a mother or a grandmother or a great grandmother comes in and they're wearing blue, or they have a blue dress on, or their energy field feels very blue, then that's my symbol, because that's part of what I learned as a life color is that nurturing. So I know that person was very nurturing, a very good mom, you see?
Right.
So anyway, it is something I love, and I can use it in many, many ways. I can use it in even looking at past lives. I can look at soul, like what is a soul purpose? So color, I don't know. I just love color.
I do too. And I think it's a very, like I said, it's something we kind of all know. And, I know that you use it in teaching as well, all about color. And I think it's such a great tool to get, like you said, kind of a lot of information at one time, because one color can mean a lot of things to you. And it can mean, you can put it together right away. I know, like you said, with blue, I know this is nurturing. I know this is what it is. And they also have kind of universal, meanings. And so, like a white could be wedding. That's kind of a universal thing for white, but also you may think of white as being spirituality, or being, closer to God or something like that. So it's such a multi-layered tool that you can use.
Right.
So
right. When we in our color class, we make a little dictionary, like, okay, so this is the universal meaning and this is your own personal meaning.
Right. That's great. And with color, have you had any really, unusual or interesting stories that you can share about color, especially working in hospice work? Because I imagine that tells you a lot about where the person is health-wise. Maybe it tells you where they are spiritually. But yeah.
Sure. I've got a few things. Well, okay, here's just a quick little example of how color can change in an auric field. So I had a lady, and this was, in hospice. Sorry, I don't know where I lost you. Do you still see me?
I can still see you.
Okay, there. I don't know. I just pressed a weird button.
That's okay. I do it all the
time. So this was in hospice. She had on a fentanyl patch. It's a pain patch. Mm-hmm. So she had that on, but she kept falling, and it was kind of weird. And she had been on the fentanyl patch maybe for a couple of weeks, but so when she had that on, it was just not making her, she was unstable. So we decided to take it off. And as soon as I took it off, I could see, this is how quick our colors can change. I saw her auric field change from gray to blue. I mean, it was that. Wow. I just took it off and boom, it changed her field. So that's amazing, I think.
Wow. And when you see an auric field, what does it look like? Just for people that may not know or have not had that experience of seeing something like that.
Right. Well, it kind of depends on the person and what's going on. And I can see the auric field with my eyes closed. More often with my eyes closed, it's more like annoying. Although that one I was objectively. Sometimes it's objective, sometimes subjective. So I can see both ways. But the way it looks now depends if everything is great and beautiful. Like the colors are so vibrant that you can't even see between, say, if I was in the same room with you and we were having a great time, we just had energy work done or whatever, we just had a reading done and we're feeling our vibes are good. Our colors are going to be so vibrant we can't see our faces. I mean, it's that thick. Wow. I mean, it's just like, okay, which color is yours? Which color is mine? It's like that. And then, so in the vibrancy, you think of the maybe magenta, purple, blue, pink, those things really like, whoa, like that. Now, if somebody is, say, having depression, or maybe they're under the influence or something like that, well, then the colors are not vibrant. The colors are more gray and closer to the body.
Oh, interesting.
So even if they're, say, normally green, you're going to see a gray kind of overshadowing the green, and it's not going to be that where you'll still see the face. Do you know what I mean? So it's not going to overshadow, like it's going to be weak. Yeah.
And that's interesting, because that makes me think that when we are depressed or in that kind of lower vibration, that we're actually in a way more lost in the earth plane, more lost in that denser earth energy. Because when you say, like, when you're vibrant, you can almost not see the face. So it's almost like you're in that more spiritual or ethereal energy, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. It's almost like, you hear the cloud coming over somebody, right?
Right.
So
that's interesting. And so let me just ask this question, because I think it's relevant to what we're talking about. And you kind of talked about this in your story, but do people's colors change? So it's interesting, because with me, I know you always, well, not every single time, I think every single time actually, you said, I see blue and then gold up here. And so that's like a constant thing. So do people's color, do you see that today? Do people colors change?
You still have the blue. I see silver too. Well, what changes is the auric field.
Okay.
What changes is, our chakras, right? The colors of the chakras, if we're not feeling good or we got a headache or that kind of thing, that does change quickly. Just like the fentanyl patch comes off, boom, her auric field changed. But your basic life color, which is like underneath all that, or maybe it stands bigger, depends on where you are, that does not change. So, and that's what you're born with and what you go out with. So for instance, a blue, like if somebody's a blue, usually they're very nurturing. They're also, that could be very mystical, the medium, so there's a lot of nurses are going to be blue. There's actually a lot of people on the planet now that are blue.
Right.
Especially women. I'm going to say more women, okay?
Right.
And men tend to be more greens, tans, yellow. But I see a lot of women who are yellow too. But there's a lot of blues and purples. Especially, I'm talking about in our community.
Right.
The spiritual seekers, they're
Right.
going to be purple, blue, and then the more you aspire to the spiritual realm, higher learning, whatever, you're going to add in the gold, the silver. And one of the other colors that's when somebody's worked on their development, and not born this way, it's just, talking about your auric field, it's an amethyst. So it's the color of the, it's a vibrant kind of a purple, but a light purple, and that is when you see that is always with somebody who has worked hard to be where they are in their development.
And when I want to tell you this funny story because I went with my sister to it was in Mexico, but it was like a work thing, but it was like a team building kind of thing. And it was a bunch of people who are in management. They were all in management. And for me, purple is all about, whenever I see purple, it always means people that want to be in charge. I think of like royalty, like kings and queens and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so when I went to this thing, all these purples were walking around, everybody wanting to be in charge, everybody wanting to be above everybody else. So it was just funny. But when you're first starting to do you have any kind of tips or suggestions for people that are wanting to maybe start working with color? Do you have any just fun exercises or things they can try? Because I think it's probably one of maybe an easier way to get started, especially if they already have a real love of color and a feeling for color.
Yes. Well, of course, I'm going to say take my color class whenever I do it again.
Of course. We'll give everybody the information for sure.
I don't have one scheduled yet, but meditation with the color, with the colors or with one color. So, and I used to do this. I did this for years and years. I always meditated with my colors. I start with the red, move up, the chakras. And so then I think that helps when you meditate with the color, you breathe it, you imagine it every way you can, you feel it, you see it as much as you can, if you can, whatever sense. Some people can taste colors, or maybe you just know color, but sit with it. So if you really want a particular, like to get really good, I would say one color a week. Like you meditate with one color a week, and you could even put a swatch of that color on your wall and look at it so it really goes in. One of the things that I like to do as well is when I'm walking in nature, and then I go through the colors. I imagine I'm walking. I am a being of red fire, is what I tell myself. I am a being of red fire, and as I'm walking, I imagine those red flames coming up. I'm breathing in, and I'm all red. I make my auric field red. Okay, and if red is not comfortable, like some people might not like red, they can do like a little pinky red. You know what I mean? They can change it a little, whatever's comfortable for them. And then orange. Then I would do orange. Then same thing. I'm a being of orange fire. And then sometimes I'll even hold that chakra. I am a being of orange fire. I'm walking around. And I do that I know this is silly, but I count. I do it for 12. I do 12 breaths, each color.
Okay.
As I say it. Okay. This just helps you tune into the different colors, and it helps get your mind, and then I do it all the way up. And then at the end, after I've done the rainbow, I say, I am a being of rainbow. And then I try to imagine the rainbow at one time. So that's one thing.
When you do this exercise, do you feel your mood change? And if you've done it around people, do you see people around you change as you change your color?
Yeah, that can make, yes, you can. You can feel it. So, because sometimes, for instance, if I'm working with green, and I love green, I know it doesn't look good on me, but I like green because I know it reminds me of Archangel Raphael, that emerald green, heart. But sometimes if I'm working with it too much, it kind of makes me a little nauseated. Now, I don't know why.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Same thing with yellow for me. If I'm around yellow too much, I get a little, oh, that doesn't feel so good. And when I'm working with a color that makes me not feel so good, then I know you can't see this so much, but I figure all my chakras up like I'm weaving. I do this around my chakras from the pubic bone up to the top of my head. And that makes me feel better. When I've got a color that is like, oh, that's making me a little off, I just weave it up.
Interesting. And so, what about when people are going through a physical illness? Do you see that as a color? And if you do, and if they are going through something physical, is there a color they could meditate on to feel better or to improve their health?
Yes, it's not going to be the same for every person, but a good universal healing color is blue. But what I would say too is when there is an area in the body that is depleted, energy is not balanced in that area for whatever reason, it's usually, you can just tell it's just not as vibrant. It could be a little gray. Oftentimes I'll see, like for grief in the heart, what I'll see is I'll see that heart kind of energy, but I'll see in the bottom, it depends on how much grief or whatever it is that's there. I'll just see on the bottom that, it's changed. It's more of a brown.
Right. Right.
Right. And
almost
so,
murky.
right. Muddy. It gets a little muddy.
Right.
I'd say gray, muddy. Yeah. But a really good color. If you don't know a color, you can always breathe in white.
Okay.
That's a non-harming, that's a universal healing, but actually they say blue is very universal healing. Green can also be universally healing. But blue, I think, is pretty safe color, and it's anti-inflammatory.
Oh,
It's
wow.
also for peace, for calming. And so that's what I like blue for that. And you can change the color of blue. You can go light blue, medium blue, indigo. You can, whatever feels right.
Right. And I wanted to bring in this question from Hilda, because she says, or it's not really a question, but it made me think of a question. My mauve tastes like cotton candy, teal as a sweet lime. And that makes me think about mediumship with color, because when a spirit represents as a color or brings in a color, how does it differ as far as how do I ask this question? Do you know what they're trying to tell you with the color they bring in? For example,
Yes.
if they bring in like pink or cotton candy, can you tell the difference between like, oh, that's their favorite color, or they loved, whatever, being a daughter? Can you tell the difference with what they're trying to tell you about themselves, and how do you differentiate that?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. So first of all, sometimes you just know it right away, right? It's just something that you just know when you see the color, you might just know it. But then again, you have to blend with it.
Okay.
And so, my spirit team knows I work with color. My intention is to work with color. So I think the spirit world knows this too. I guess because this is what I get, what comes, right? So when a spirit person, and it could be actually, we're talking guides, angels, departed loved ones, galactic angels, galactic beings, they come in as color. And I often, like in guides and angels, I don't necessarily see their face. I just see color. I just see a ball of light with color. And then I feel into that color, like, what does that mean? Why are they yellow today? You know what I mean? But usually it's the same color all the time. But like a pink, for instance, is about love, right? You can imagine it's about love, but it depends on the shade of pink. So for me, my light pink means they need to take care of themselves better, more self-love. They're giving out too much. When I see a medium pink, it's like, okay, if I see somebody with a light pink, I know we're getting way off mediumship, but this is this is not really.
Right. It's all kind of connected though, right? Because it's a way of reading. So yeah.
Absolutely it is. If they come in, light pink, a medium pink is absolutely unconditional love. You know what I mean? And then if somebody is a light pink and I think they need a little boost, we'll breathe together a darker pink to make their field a little stronger, you know, give them a little more vibrancy. We'll breathe together. We'll breathe and fill in their whole auric field with a medium pink or maybe even a magenta. And now magenta, when I see magenta, 100% all the time, they're an animal lover. I don't know, and I don't know why that is for me, but that's just how, when I see that, I just know it.
How interesting.
And
go ahead.
No, I don't know it. That's just my pattern. And again, I have no idea why. And when a spirit person comes in magenta, I know they're an animal lover too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just the person I'm sitting in front of, but even a spirit being.
Right. And Mimi had the question, you kind of just answered it, but we'll go into it. There's more of how do you improve your aura?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So our aura, you know, can change with stress. And it can also become detached, and it can become brought in, you know, and then we can expand it out. One of the things, and I don't know if I can do it here, I do the Celtic weave to move my auric field to make sure it's attached to my body. Mm-hmm. And also expanded. You ideally, your aura, you want like 3 inches out. When you hold your hands out, you want like 3 inches. That's kind of like what you want ideally. If the aura is too close to your body, you want to spread it out. And how do you do that? I do the Celtic weave, which is like I just move my arms around basically, but you got to be grounded. Uh-huh. You ground, and then you cross, and then you roll up the earth energy, mm-hmm. and that helps your auric field. Another thing is breathing the colors and expanding, but stress, right? You got to make sure that whatever you can do to reduce your body's response to the stressors that are out there. And so, we can't avoid stressors, but we can change the way our body reacts to this stress. So, like one of the things, here's a simple little thing. A triple warmer meridian, which is related to our fight-flight response, to stress. You can just, right here on the temples is the beginning of your triple warmer, and you just sedate the triple warmer. You pet the kitty, and you just hold on, take a deep breath, and that will help your response to stress. That's one thing. You just go around the ears and you hold on to the shoulders. I know that seems silly and simple, but then if you can do that, then you breathe your whatever beautiful color you want in your auric field. And I do know that if you breathe in a color and imagine it, that will come in. Like if you want to breathe in gold and you want your field gold, then you're going to bring in gold.
And it's so interesting that you're talking about pushing it out as well, because I had just an interesting experience at a funeral one time, and feeling the person was there, and they were filling literally filling the room with their spirit. And it's the first time that I realized, oh, our spirits are huge. We're condensed in this body, but we're actually these very expansive beings. And so that's very interesting that you're talking about kind of pushing it out, and that it's almost like that's the way we feel more like ourselves as a spiritual being, right?
I like that. Yes, beautiful.
Very interesting. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. And so that what you're saying makes absolute sense to me.
The more we can work in our heart, I think, the more our heart, to me, the heart is that connection to our soul, our higher self. And so when we work in that heart, then we're more able to expand. Like whenever I meditate, I start with the heart and I imagine a light. You can imagine small, and then it moves out. You imagine the light getting bigger till it fills your field. And you can do whatever color you want that way.
I love that. And people are asking about your classes, but we'll kind of talk about how when you'll be doing another one, or when you're thinking about doing another one, or what's going on right now. But we'll definitely answer that. So don't worry, everybody. We'll make sure we talk about that. And I did want to ask you about. I'm kind of looking in the chat to see what people would like to know. When you bringing this color into mediumship, if someone comes to you, what is the color or what is going on around them that tells you that they might be so deep in grief they're not being able to feel their loved one? I know that I've been told that many times from loved ones, is like they're too entrenched in their own grief, and I'm trying to talk to them, trying to get through, but I can't.
Right.
What does it look like to you if it's in color, or what does it just look like to you?
Well, more of a grayish, brownish. That's what it looks like, and also small. Mm-hmm. And and it is hard to read that. I think when we do readings, a lot depends on the receiver.
Yes.
Because if we're reading somebody's, they got their arm like this, and maybe they, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So, and even for the spirit world, and I think this is why I don't feel, like they're coming in heavy grief. And they say, well, I haven't felt my mom. Why not? Why not? Why not? Well, their mom's been knocking at her door, but yet she can't feel it through that sadness, that heaviness.
Right. And it's so common, especially when it's soon after, right? It's soon after. And I always think, so many people I've talked to, myself included, and it sounds like you included with your mom, that those losses are so often our tap on the shoulder for some kind of awakening, to wake up. And I think that you're right. There can be with some people this tendency to shut down even more and say, well, life's mean to me and I don't like it. So I'm just going to just sit here and make you tell me something that convinces me. What happens to a mediumship reading when you do have that kind of wall? And can you talk about that process of kind of trying to open that up, and the difference between a reading where someone's completely shut down and unwilling, and when they're really open and really, trying to help you figure out what's this, what's that? Because I agree, it's a partnership. You can do a reading, but it's not going to be the reading that they could have if they were just open.
Right.
So talk about the difference in that.
Well, spirit world is going to have a hard time coming to, because the spirit person is with the sitter. They're not with me. I mean, right. I might notice them, but they came with the sitter. And so I'm working with the sitter to reach the spirit world.
Right.
And so if I'm moving my awareness to the spirit world through them, it's going to be harder because they're very close. So what I try to do in that situation is I first work with getting them feeling better, if as much as I can.
Right.
Sometimes it's impossible, but, so I try to raise the vibration as much as possible,
mm-hmm.
When you do a reading, and so that they can open up a little bit, and there might be a little spark, and it could be one little spark that opens up, that it could be just like, oh yes, of course, he had the white dog that he ran over. For instance, there was a man, the wife said her husband ran over their little white dog. I mean, killed the dog. It's terrible.
Right.
But so when I was the reading with the wife, and I said, there's a white dog with your husband, she's like, oh my God, well, they're together. And she was thinking that the dog wouldn't forgive them. But yet he had the dog so tight. It's like he was never letting go. And I said, he's not letting go. I had no idea about the backstory. I said, he's holding on to this dog. He's not letting go. And so just some little tiny thing can help him, like, oh my, and at least shift that grief a little bit to like, oh, now look what happened. Met the dog again,
Right. That evidence-based kind of mediumship, and Thank you, Truth. That's so nice of you. And so talking about evidence-based mediumship, because I think that's what a lot of people, if they're not in this community all the time, or they're kind of just dipping in and dipping out, that's kind of I think probably the mediumship they're most aware of because of television, right?
Right.
Oh, all these things that they're telling them one after the other. And I think that sometimes, in our classes, we'll teach that the message is always primary. The evidence stuff is really nice, and it's always really wonderful to hear. But the messages, that's what they're there to give them, is some message. And so if you don't have that, we all love those evidence things that come through because it's so exciting and so fun. But if you don't have that, and that's what the person's waiting for, they're waiting for you to say that one name or that one thing that they, tell me where, whatever. They're waiting for that one thing, and that doesn't come across. What is that? What does it mean? Is it meaningful, or does it just it doesn't work that way? Or what do you say about that? Because I know people walk away disappointed because they didn't hear that one thing, but yet they get this beautiful message from their loved one saying, "I'm with you, I'm okay." So how do you do that as a reader?
Right. Okay. I know exactly. I agree with you totally. As far as I think the message is more important, and sometimes the evidence comes in the message.
Right.
And that's way more important than whether they lived at 1021 East Street.
Right.
Because in the spirit world doesn't want to talk about 1021 East Street. They want to talk about you and the love, and the love and compassion that we have. So when it doesn't come through, sometimes it could be, and I know it could be disappointing. I'll just say at the end, is there something that, you would like to hear from your loved one that we didn't cover, or could even be a different person that didn't come through, or whatever. So I'll always ask that. Here's something that happened one time with me. The very beginning of the reading, I saw a white cat, and I kept saying, "Oh, there's a white cat here, white cat." And she said, "We never had a white cat. Our neighbors never had a white cat." And I just thought it was just so clear. I could see a blue eye and a green eye. And so then at the very end of the reading, she said, "Well, the one thing I wanted to hear was my name for my son. We always called him Bobo. And our cats, that cat, I had a white cat when I was little named Bo." So, I mean, it's like, okay, well, I didn't really get it, when I saw that, I didn't say the name, but she said, the whole reading, the hour long, I just wanted to hear the name Bobo.
And they'll try, right? I mean, they do try. It can, but but like you said, it's tricky because I think, like you said earlier, that we don't have any context for anything when we go in as a reader, and so I think sometimes they'll get the idea that we're seeing some kind of complete picture, like It's a Wonderful Life, or like this complete picture of everything, and we really don't. We have just bits and pieces that we're drawing from, and they have to make the connection. They have to see what it is, and we'll do our best, but that's really it, right?
That's right. It's absolutely right. It's not like you and I talking like this. We do the best we can, is we use whatever clairs we can, and all of them as much as we can, to get whatever the message they want across, but it's almost always love and compassion. It doesn't matter, really. That's the most important thing. And it doesn't matter how good you are, bad you are, or that doesn't matter. I remember I had these 3 sisters that came. It was actually 2 sisters and a sister that came to want to talk to their mom. Well, when their mom came in, and she showed me it was somebody's birthday, and it was somebody's birthday, so which is great. You get these symbols, right, for birthday and all that. But the mom said, "There's one more, and I love just the same." And it was just so clear. And they were like, "Oh, no," because they had another sister that went down a dark path. and was like, became estranged from the family, or whether it was, I don't remember, it was drugs or whatever it was. She just went down a dark path, and she was hard to live with, for the mom. But she came in and she said, one more sister I love just the same. So it doesn't, when you get to the other side, it is forgiveness. There's a lot of forgiveness and compassion, and sometimes the spirit world will come in with warnings, I remember one time my dad came in and he said, watch out Friday night. And I'm thinking, watch out Friday night. Okay. Well, it was I wish I would have listened, because at that Friday night was a terrible night with something with my son. And, so
right.
they give you warnings. And then my dad will say, and that's funny that, the people that, it's not always somebody that you know. It could be a great grandparent that you never met is one of the people that hang around you a lot for whatever reason, right? Maybe they're interested. Maybe you're about to start a business and they were a business person. So, I forgot. Oh, my dad will tell me he's with my son's a fast driver. And he has it looks at his car is more like a go-kart than a car. I mean, it's just, it's got a stick shift and all. And so my dad will say, I sit by him. I'm with him when he's driving. And my son says, I feel somebody there. And my dad will even say, I made him take that, move over, another language. And my son will say, I felt that.
How interesting.
So they're so helpful. It's so wonderful to have the support and know we have the support from the spirit world.
What is one of the most common messages you get from the other side?
Well, I'm here. I love you. I'm well. You're okay. It's all okay. Don't worry. We've got your back. Don't worry, and stay in the joy. Whatever you do, if you have a choice A or B, what brings you the joy, that's the one. Because they want us to see, they want us to have a happy life as much as possible. I mean, it's impossible to be perfectly happy all the time, but they want us to not grieve, to know that they're alive more than ever, and that they're here helping us.
Right. I couldn't agree more. That is, it is. And it's such a beautiful message. And yet Michelle, my bell is saying the message is very important. I agree, but a piece of evidence takes away all doubt and skepticism. And
yes,
I think that's why it is so neat to have those moments of like, wow, because it can be life-changing. If you are really like, I don't believe any of this, and you get that kind of, evidence that you were looking for, that it can be life-changing. I think one thing that maybe it's just as a reader, I think it puts a lot of pressure on the reader. I think because you're doing the best you can. And if the idea that you could just not say that one thing they want to hear, and it's like, oh, this is, nonsense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I know it's I feel a lot of responsibility.
Right.
In whatever I say. Again, I want to enable and not disable somebody,
Right.
And stay in the positive. So that's very, very important to me. I never want to leave a reading on a negative or on a worry note or anything like that. Never, ever. I'll stay a half hour longer if I have to make it positive. But I almost always try to have some evidence before, so that they do know. I don't spend the whole reading on evidence because I think that to me is passé. I know back in the day, the spiritualist churches, that's what they did. It's all about the evidence. But I don't think that's not today's reader. Right. And I agree. But I think I do give some evidence, something. Like I have one lady that I read for very frequently. She's always changing jobs, and so we've got to work on that. Her grandmother comes in every time, and how I know it's her grandmother, she carries a broom. It's her little signature. She has a broom, and the evidence. And when I say that, and then the granddaughter says, yeah, she loved to sweep. So that's one of the things she comes in with. So I don't have to give a lot of evidence, just
right.
something. something that we know who it is.
Right, right. And I think that's exactly it too. That's why they're doing that. It's not to convince them necessarily, it's just to say, I'm really here. This is really me. It's funny because I was watching a really well-known medium, and she was talking to a mother and a daughter, and she was bringing in the brother of the daughter and the son of the mother. And the daughter was like, right there. You could tell she was so open, and she really wanted to communicate with her brother. And her mother was sitting, she wasn't standing up, she was sitting down kind of like this. And she said, he's got a little dog, and described the dog to a T. And the daughter's like, oh my gosh, that's Fluffy or whatever. Or no, she said, oh my gosh, yes, that's his dog. And the mother sat there and said, do you have a name for the dog?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, that's the thing, right? I know.
And she said, if you're going to run your own agenda, I'm going to stop this right now, and I will send him on your way. But I thought, that is the thing, right? So for some, there might just be this, they're just not ready yet. They're not there yet. Either their grief or their anger, wherever they are in the grief process, might be holding this up. But like you said, we do the best we can, right?
Right. See, I'm not very good with names, right? So I would just, like, oh my gosh, on occasion I get a name, but that's not my.
Me too, Kim. What is that? I'm not good with names either.
Well, there's kind of, some of it can be a little bit of a belief system, like we're saying we're not good with names, right? But it also,
right.
But practice. Now, even like, so there's some of that is just when you devote, you might need to spend 6 months only on names, right? It's just, but I don't know if it's that important.
Right. So, right. Exactly.
I don't feel, it's almost like saying when you meet somebody from the spirit world, or when let's say your grandmother walks in the door, you don't say, what's your name? No, because you know them. It's the feeling of the love. That's what you know. And you don't have to introduce your name. So I think that's the same in spirit world too. There's a bit of that,
Right. And Kevin Lewis is here. He's a
Kevin.
He's a medium.
Yeah. I think he's pretty good at this, actually. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And the last thing I want to ask you about is, so Craig Dixon is here, and Craig has an amazing connection with the 1920s star Clara Bow. Uh-huh. She is his guide. She is his helper. He talks to her all the time. Could you talk a little bit about the famous, if we know about them, how sometimes we can have those medium connections? Maybe we didn't know them at all here, but in spirit, for some reason, they come to us, or we hear them, or there's some kind of connection there. I know that, Linda, Comanche Psychic, talks about hearing from Tom Petty all the time. And she's like, I did not listen to his music. I don't know anything about it. But when he passed away, he started coming to me. So have you ever thought about that kind of stuff? Has that happened to you? And what do you think that is?
Yeah. Well, I think it could be a couple different things. Now, I don't know if Clara was still alive when he was born. I don't know. But
I don't know either. I don't think so, but I don't know.
So it makes me suspicious, and I'm not sure, because is that it could be, now this is going to sound a little out there, it could be part of his soul. Like a past life of his. Uh-huh. It could be that, or somebody that's in the soul group. Usually when a person from spirit world comes, normally it's because there's an attraction to love. I mean, there's a love bond.
Right.
Okay. It's not, they're just not going to come to anybody. I mean, there's usually a love bond, or sometimes people come because they know there's a channel that's opened, to get the message out. Okay. But there's still a love bond somewhere in that connection. It's not just random, Right. Okay. So I don't know if Clara died, even if Clara didn't die before Craig, because we can have multiple lives at the same time. Yeah. It makes me wonder if this is one of his fragments, soul fragments.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So I think that's possible. And I don't know about Tom Petty and Linda. I mean, makes me no, but maybe, because they're kind of famous, and that somehow there's something with that, and that he knows, because she's pretty well known. I'm sure in spirit world too, because she's known on Earth, and so she's got to be known in the spirit world. There's got to be some connection here. I don't know. I don't think it would just be random. It's not, you're just going to have people stopping by. And I mean, unless you invite that,
Right.
really recommend just that,
Yeah.
I know for me, for instance, and I know a past life of mine, and she's come to me several times, and she's an artist. Actually, she was a portraitist in France, lived in the 1700s. Elizabeth Louise Lebrun. I just happen to know her name and everything. I mean, don't ask me how I figured this all out. It's a long story, but I got it. I figured out she's a past life of mine. Well, maybe that's why I like color too, because this is an artist.
Yeah.
But the part that she is coming to, I mean, I'd see pictures that she painted be coming to my mind, and people would give me a reading, and there she is. I mean, and then we just figured out it's a past life. So, but she comes in as a guide also. So isn't that interesting? Don't know, you see how things can work.
Yeah.
More complicated than we would imagine.
Right. And I think, sometimes too, I know because we do a thing called Ladies Night, and we bring in different women from different time periods and things like that, and talk to them. And what I've noticed is that there are a few that really stand out to me because they came in so clearly. I felt like they were sitting next to me. I just felt like I could just go on and on and on. The connection was easy. And I just felt like, so there must be maybe a vibrational match or something that happens as well, that it just makes it easier for you to hear them, and I think maybe on the other side, they can see that, like, this person is a vibrational match for me. So boom, I'm going to try to get into them. But so that, do you think that could be also part of it as well?
Absolutely. Because for instance, me being a nurse, a nurse or doctor will easily come in versus, let's say, a truck driver.
Right.
There's going to be a resonance. There's going to be a common language. There's going to be something similar. Right. That reminds me, I did have a grandfather who was a doctor. I know he helps me with healing work. And so anyway, but yes, I think it's easier when there's a resonance to come in. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's so fascinating. Yeah. Someone's bringing up, I did a reading for my club. I actually put it on the regular channel with Robin Williams, who came in, and it was just the weirdest experience. And his whole thing was just bringing joy and laughter and love into the world. That was his mission. And I could just feel it running through me through that whole reading. It was the weirdest experience.
Well, that makes me think then your joy and your wishing to bring this out to the world. And he had the same thing. That's why he was a good match and you guys could blend well,
Interesting. I didn't think about that. Yeah. Gina said I was crying with laughter. It's true. It was really just very interesting and very powerful. But, well, thank you, Kim, for spending this time with us. I just appreciate it so much. And I'm going to put your information for your channel and your website. Is there anything coming up or anything you wanted to talk about, like coming on your channel or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything like actively ready to go, but in my mind, I'm going to do a class on working with the galactic energies. And I also would like to do a series of meditations. I did this last year too, a meditation, I call it a meditation sampler. So we learn a meditation, maybe from the Hindu tradition, or maybe for the sitting in the power, that actually was really wonderful. So I have that coming, the galactic energy, and a healing class. And I want to do a healing for the chakras class.
Oh, wow.
And then Mel and I are talking about, we don't, so none of this is really on paper. None of it is like, I haven't figured out the dates or anything yet, but all in the next 3 to 4 months. And then Mel and I are talking about doing NLP, I think like an animal communication and healing class. Yeah.
Wonderful. And when you have your classes, how long are they several weeks? Are they once a week? Are they, how do they run?
Usually once a week for about 4 or 5 weeks.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Well, we will put your information in the description.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming on and talking about mediumship, Kim.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. So I really appreciate it. And a great audience here. So hi, everybody.
I know. Hello, everybody. Yeah, thank you, everyone, so much for hanging out with us and for your comments and questions. And I hope that you enjoyed it as much as Kim and I did. So, all right, everybody, have a great Sunday, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.